see. Am I live? Am I live? Excellent connection, it says. Okay. I guess I'm here. There we go. All right. Happy Saturday. Ugh, that goofy chat thing's happening again. Let me see if I can get a chat window. Take a drink of water here. Nobody's here anyway, so I have a chance to fix this. But first, let me, I better mute that so I don't hear myself hearing myself. Now I can get the chat window, pop out the chat, and close the window. All right. I think, where's my chat window now? There's my chat window. Hey, Ryan. All right. Wanted to switch gears slightly, as it happens. Got something else cooking. So I was talking to Daniel, aka Bandits Keep, after our game night on Thursday, and I forget what we got us on the subject of it, but there was this concept of, hey Ian, good morning. Concept that was, and I forgot to bring out the First Fantasy campaign. In the First Fantasy campaign, which was, I remember now. We're talking about kind of there's a lot of, what's the way I'm trying to put it? There's different camps on the origins of D&D, right? And how much credit you want to give one party. Really, we're talking kind of Arneson versus Gygax kind of thing. And I think I'd mentioned I felt like Gygax is kind of seems akin, not in all things, but I felt a little bit like with Marvel Comics and what's his name? Stan Lee. Not that, and I don't know all the things with comics. I know there's a lot of bad blood between Stan Lee getting credit or taking credit for certain things and doing things. And I think that Stan Lee probably wasn't the most creative in terms of stuff, but what he provided, I think, was absolutely necessary to Marvel becoming the thing that it became and doing all that. I don't think it could have been done without him, kind of regardless of whatever you think. He was kind of necessary. And maybe Gygax wasn't as innovative, let's say, as Arneson in coming up with stuff, but it's also clear that if there hadn't been a Gygax, Arneson wasn't going to get anything done. And and this is, I think, what's got us onto the First Fantasy campaign, because after, with past D&D, when Arneson would be doing different projects, different people, I think the refrain from all of them was that getting stuff from Arneson was like getting a mess, and you had to put it together, and it wasn't complete, and all this. He would not have been able to manage, unfortunately, getting that stuff out there. Like the idea of getting something like the three little brown books in the condition they were was something that just, who knows if Arneson could have ever have done it, let alone on any kind of reasonable timetable. And maybe that's even why Gygax at some point, and he talks about it, they kind of hurried it out the door. It's kind of pushing it out there, right? And that got us, as Brian says, it just proves it's a game that improved for collaboration. Absolutely. And there's that other thing about, stolen from this, stolen from who took this from that. But, that was the environment. Even today, that's the environment. Lots of games like Shadow Dark and really all of them really have borrowed things from all kinds of other games, from blog posts, from all these things. And oftentimes the person who ends up getting all the credit for it isn't that they came up with all these ideas, is that they found a nice melding of ideas that already existed and kind of put them together in a nice package. And all those creators, I don't see some big list of, hey, I got this idea from here, I got this idea from here. You just kind of take these ideas and run with it. And I think they did the same, and people are doing the same. Now, all of that is Ian asked if I've read John Peterson's Game Wizards. No, I haven't read that one yet. I've read Playing Get the World. I haven't read that one yet. I need to go back, and I kind of want to read that one and then kind of go through his other books. But anyway, we got onto the First Fantasy campaign, and I think Daniel mentioned this idea of using that Arneson used his stocking sort of chainmail point buying, or I guess really from chainmail, but really it's a wargaming idea. Or you see it in Warhammer and other things where you have a budget for your forces, right? You're playing a game of whatever, and they say, okay, these are going to be 150 point armies. And so you would go and take your 150 points and invest it the way you ever want to come up with your forces, and your enemy takes 150 points and invest in their army. And so you get this interesting thing, and you can make choices, right? Do I want a lot of low point troops? So I got a bunch of them, but they kind of stink. Do I want to invest in a bunch of really elite forces? So they're going to be strong, but then if I lose one, it's a really big deal because I only have so many. How do you want to mix and match all these things? And the idea was that Arneson took the point buying, which is in chainmail, and was using those values to stock, I think, dungeon levels, something like that. Vince says, in their opinion, Gygax is the Steve Jobs of D&D, whereas Dave is the Steve Wozniak. Yeah, there's probably some truth to that. And you kind of needed both of them, right, at certain points. So if you look in chainmail, like in the fantasy section, let me just flip through here. I know I have it. I have the PDF somewhere, but I don't have it handy. Where's my glasses? If I have to get my glasses, maybe I'll see if I can dig out First Fantasy campaign. But anyway, so you see something like a basilisk doesn't have any. Okay, that's a bad example because they say no point value. So a white, for example, has 10 point value. So if you wanted to stock your army full of whites, if you had 100 points army, right, you could put 10. You could have 10 whites running around doing dirt. But we're not gonna do that. So this idea was, so I had this. So I was kind of thinking about the idea in a different way of stocking your hex map is some kind of point buy system, whereby you would instead of just random, you could essentially, if you have an idea like, oh, I want to have this to be, I want this to be giants in here or whatever. Maybe you have your assorted beasties already. You don't want to do just flat out random. You want something, but you also want to have constraints, because obviously to a certain level you don't need to constrain yourself. But I think part of the reason why I like tables, part of the reason why I like these sorts of mechanisms is that they do confine you a little bit, and I find you get I find a lot of value in those constraints because they make you think about things a little bit differently. They make you use your creativity in a way that if, hey, you just have the phone book, you can have anything you want anytime. Then I think you just don't get some of that. What is it? I forget the mother invention. What's the phrase? Necessity is the mother invention. It forces you to make kind of tough decisions, tough choices. So yesterday, it was yesterday at some point, I put together this hex map. I tried to make it work. Hey, Sword and Stones. I tried to make it work using, so people love the hex flower, right? You put, you get this kind of flower look and it's nice, these sort of circular ones. The problem is, and maybe there's a solution I just didn't think about. The problem I ran into is that for some things, this hex flower actually works really well. If I'm in this hex here, 4/4, and I'm deciding some kind of random, like in what neighboring hex something is, you got your good old 6-sided die, and it works great because you get 1, 2, 3 over here, 4, 5, 6, or however you want to number them. And I can roll a die and say, oh, it's here, whatever. But if I'm doing something, I want to cover the entire area. The center hex is not off limits. No, I want something that this is my main area. Well, then I have an odd number because I got 7 right here. So I can't use any of the dice. I can't use all the dice are not going to have something evenly come out for 7 different choices. You have to figure it out somehow. So in trying to figure out, because I'm enjoying 6-sided dice, and you can do this with your dice of choice, I was looking at, well, how can I get something where I can use 1 6 or some kind of multiple of 6? And I like the D66 where you roll 2 D6s and 1 6 is your tens die. Basically, 1 6 is your single digit die. So you get a span from 11, to 66, which gives you 36 choices, which is a good number, but not too much, I think, but not a tiny amount. And of course, so you're doing that, you can get something with, basically if you table this out, at least one way of tabling out is 6 rows, 6 columns. So you get the square, which I have here, of 6 rows and 6 columns. It's not I don't find it as aesthetically pleasing to look at as a kind of a region thing, as one of these nice flower kind of circular designs, but I could not figure out a way to get 36 using that thing. If there's some way to do it where you get something that's essentially has what's the word I'm trying? It basically is the same, has symmetry, so it's not off some way. Let me know. I ended up getting one, but it was a weird shape. It was a weird kind of elongated diamond shape, and I I didn't dig it, so I just ended up going with this. But the nice thing here is now if we want to roll, so now we have this setup, we can break down a region and we have this kind of block. And another thing, which I think maybe is just it's going to kind of sort of depend on whatever, but I like the 3 mile hexes. And if you, this kind of 3 mile hex map, you basically get, if you use 3 mile hexes for each one of these hexes, you get about 281 or 280 point, rounding up, about 281 square miles of territory, which is fairly close. I forget it's a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller than the size of New York City, I think. New York City in square miles. I think that is if you're not counting, I think if you don't count the water. If you just look at the land area of New York City, right? Am I not remembering that? That's yeah, land it's 300. So New York City is a little bit under, yeah, it's 300.46 square miles, and we're getting 281. So a bit, about 20 miles shy of 20 miles shy of New York City. But it's a good, I like it as a number thing. I think it's a good spot. So it's not too small, it's not super huge. I think if you're looking at something like Rhode Island is it over 1,200 square miles? So we're still talking relatively small areas. Maybe I always think of I want a different word than region. I don't know if region. We need more synonyms for region that are kind of generic. So anyway, I think it's a good number. So we have these things we can roll on for anything. And so you might want to say like, oh, okay, where's where is something in this? Something's happening. We need to roll a location, or are we just not a random, like a rumor? Oh, we have a random rumor comes up. Oh, okay, and it's like, oh, something's happened wherever. Obviously, you're looking at this. There's no terrain or anything, but if we just need to know where it is. Oh, I rolled 36. 3.6 gets us. Okay, there it is. So that was kind of the concept there. The other, so the things that I'm working on. So I guess getting back, let me try to reset a little bit. So came up with this map, so I could basically have I'll probably whatever, I'll space it out better. Have this kind of thing so I could roll on it. And the other part I just mentioned, okay, we got this using kind of a hex stocking rules from using kind of chainmail. You're using chainmail just to kind of start us off, because I don't want to have chainmail's numbers are fairly bespoke, and they make interesting choices, but we can glean some things off of them. One thing I noticed, I'll just have to make some rough notes here. So I just want to make another. If we talk about our point buy, what the heck? No, cancel. I hate when you do that. This is what I can't. No, clear character styles. What? Is that really the size of it? Cancel. Oh, okay. Point buy. So chainmail. If you red dragon. Let me try this. A red dragon in chainmail is, I think, because they don't really give you the they don't give you the hit dice in chainmail so much. I think because they're on the fantasy table, it has kind of its own special rules. But if we look at the say BX for red dragon stats, we get something like the average red dragon is 10 hit dice. So we get something kind of nice. So we get basically a red dragon, right? Red dragon, for example. Oh, you're gonna keep doing that, having me be bold. Come on, let's just no. Oh, you're driving me nuts. What? Stop doing that. All right, red dragon, 10 hit dice equals 10 on 100 points. So we can kind of say that we would have, you could say on the line 10 points per HD, right? But this number, but of course, not that easy, because a troll, or a true troll, as opposed to an ogre, is, I think, 75 points. Let me go. You know what? Let me go get my. Hold on a minute. Let me get my glasses. Be right back. Just gonna fetch my glasses. Hold on. Hold ye horses. Muting myself for a second. All right. I picked the wrong books out. Oh, I forgot the one I wanted to get. Because I have these Adventures in Fantasy, but what I need is First Fantasy Campaign. And these aren't it. Ugh. All right. I'm not going to go find them now. I will find them later, and I'll do some stream about them later. Okay, back to business. Got my glasses, though. So, a true troll, if we go to the fantasy, is, hold on a minute, where did I just have it? It's ogres, trolls, and ogres. A true troll has a point value of 75. Okay. True trolls can only be killed in fantastic. So basically, there's some interesting stuff here too. True trolls can only be killed in fantastic combat against hero types. Balrogs, elementals, and giants. Magical weapons will also kill true trolls. And then essentially, so the interesting thing is only heroes, superheroes, Balrogs, elementals, giants, and magical weapons can kill trolls. They can be driven back, apparently, because they say that they always fight alone. They fight as giants, but only as 3 armored foot when attacking or being attacked by men. So you can attack them, you just can't kill them. Presumably, this way you can you can push them back, but you can't kill them, right? So there's 75 points. But if I look at a troll I think it's in the expert sets. I'm just picking up my binder here. If I go to troll in the expert set, a troll is 6 hit dice plus 3 asterisk. So how do you get to 75? Right, so if we go back here, so a troll is 6 plus 3 star hit die equal to 75. Now, I don't care so much about getting exactly, but I just kind of want to get close. So it could be still 10 points, right? Because 6 times 10 be 60. And then, oh, you know what? Maybe that does. Oh, hold on a minute. Well, actually, I didn't see this last time, but it could be. So you get 6 times 10 points plus 3 times it's 5 points. Oh, interesting. Was there? Ooh, that actually might work. I know there's some other ones that don't. I said a white was 10 hit 10 points, but all right. So a white, I think they said it was 10 points, and a white in BX is. I went too far. A white in BX. Anyone want to take a guess? I want to say it's 2, or is it 1 plus 1 kind of thing? Let's see. White, Medusa, Neanderthals, Rust Monsters, Trolls, Thools, Traitors. You traitor! Wait, did I say white or did I say a... Wait, what was it? Was it a white or was it a ghoul? What was I looking at? I thought it was white. Da, da, da. Superheroes, orcs, trolls, balrogs, dragons, ents, basilisks, chimeras. Oh, it's a white. And ghouls. All right, so in chainmail, whites and ghouls are one thing. Although they are foot figures, whites and ghouls melee as light horse. Yeah. Whites and ghouls can the darkness. A paralyzed figure is considered to be able to strike a blow at a white just prior to paralysis taking effect. Okay, zombies are this class. All right. So whites and ghouls are both 10 points. But they're definitely, I guess maybe it's not until BX a little bit later where they kind of differentiate them in power type, because obviously a white is 3 hit dice with a star, which would not, and a ghoul. Oh, you ghouly ghoul. A ghoul is 2 with a star, which makes more sense somewhat. So I think, so what I'm thinking about is this, right? So a ghoul is 2 star hit dice equal to 10 points. Somehow a white is 3 star hit points also equal to 10 points. So you get some, that doesn't make much sense. And I think it's because, I mean, there's a certain point where things that become, the challenges can be, one, obviously that the monsters got fleshed out and differentiated a bit more once you get to something like BX from Chainmail. I think it seems pretty clear that whites and ghouls are basically just they're just kind of one and the same kind of thing. I think. Do they say anything here about ghouls? So they say that whites and ghouls can see in darkness. They do fight less effectively in full light. Yeah, they both paralyze. And they also have zombies are basically in this same thing. So I'm going to guess that if we take it and really we just go with the 2 hit points. So I think we might look at it and say, okay, a ghoul. So I think there's some, I guess what I'm trying to get at here in my very roundabout way is I think there's some thresholds. I think we could say that above some level, above X hit die, it's 10 points per hit die. And then there, and I'm curious about, well, how many different levels are there? So ghouls are pretty low to the bottom. They're 10 points. What about if we look at, and unfortunately in chainmail, they're not really in alphabetical order, so I kind of got to go through and sort of hand find. So if we get orcs, I got to go back. This is all the stuff about. Here we go. Orcs have a point value of 2. And an orc in BX has how many hit points? Has a hit die of 1. Right, so orcs, point value 2, hit dice 1. Orcs, hit die equals, or sorry, 1 hit die equals 2 points. Do we have, what would be even, so kobolds or goblins, what would be even further down the food chain from an orc? What else have they got? Do they have any goblins? Yep, goblins 1.5, dwarves 2. Goblins 1.5. And are goblins, how many hit dice do goblins have? Bears, I'm going the wrong way. Bears, nobles, Lizardmen, goblins, 1-1. So goblins, 1-1 hit die are 1.5 points. I probably will get rid of the. I don't really want the points. I don't think I want any point values. I mean, decimalized point values. So we look at some point above some level. I need to find a mid-level one. What would be so heroes? Oops, heroes, which are basically fourth level fighting men, right? Heroes, 4 hit dice. They're equal to 20 points. Yeah, red dragons. So okay, above. So we don't know what it's not 4. When you get to 6, we are there. 6 times 10. Like that's kind of cool that gets us there. Ghouls. Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if they're giving them credit for the star. Well, the stars from that would be 5 points per level. Orcs. This is. I know this is like not the most interesting thing at all, and I'm happy to discuss whatever while I'm fumbling through trying to figure out these numbers. So if I want to make some what generalizations can I make? So I guess humanoids of 1 HD plus. That's 2 points per HD. Fantastic creatures of, at this point, I'm just going to call it 6 HD plus, but we might have to amend that number. That's, we're talking 10 points per HD. HD, 5 points per, plus, if any. Right? And then humanoids makes goblins slightly cheaper. I don't know if this will work for. I gotta find some other creatures too. It'd be one. We'll call it 1 point per HD. I'd love to get some really clean, easy rules, easy things, but I don't know if that's actually gonna happen. All right. Now, I gotta figure out one thing I haven't just thought about is how many points in your average hex. How many points in your average hex? I guess there's a couple of ways to do this, and I'm not sure. Do we want to do the points on a region level, like there's a master amount of points in your whole region, and then your hexes divvy that up? Or are we doing it hex by hex? I kind of like having it on the region level. I think that's what makes sense to me. But, we go. So let's see. Let's just make some. Let's make some. What's a mid-level critter? Let's just see. So if we go through, we got elves. And I know there's some nuance here with it because elves have certain abilities that make them better. So, elves are 4 points, dwarves are 2 points. They do morale, but I'm not going to worry about them. 20 for heroes. Superheroes are 50. So superheroes are 8 hit dice, and they're 50. So it doesn't really cleanly. That's another oddity where they were, because they were they were bespoke. They're making kind of ad hoc, trying to figure out a right balance. I'm not so interested in that because I'm not interested in kind of war game kind of balance. So I'm sure they did something where maybe it started off as, oh, well, if it's a superhero, then it should just be worth 40, double a hero. But then it doesn't work out. The math doesn't work out right. So you go, nope. So we come here, go superhero, 8 HD, and they have 50. So maybe we'd bump it up to 60. Right? Does that work? 8. Well, 8 times 10 would be 80. 8 times that'll be 5.5 points per HD. Let me see. So we go 8 points per HD, and we go 64 points. Or do we just say 40 points? Because like I said, I'm not trying to balance it war game like, but I'm just trying to make I don't know, we'll come back to it. I feel like it's it's kind of the least interesting part of this, but I think maybe the more interesting thing is what kind of budget we have. Let me see if I can track down. Hold on a minute. I'm going to try to find that. I'm going to make one more stab to finding that book. I picked out every other book there but the one I wanted. If I can't find it on the next stab, I don't think it's behind me over there. I don't think it's... All right, let me take one more, see if I can find First Fantasy. Hold on. Hold on. Success. Do. Got it. All right. Got it. So, First Fantasy campaign. Arneson says, okay. Where do we got? Dungeon levels. Whereas they have something on stocking specifically. Blackmore, the campaign. Raise Cortex. Egg of Coot. Travel. Encounters. Well, we'll start on page 23. I'm sorry, I don't have this. I don't know if it's... Someone can let me know if it's available on PDF somewhere. But I don't have it on PDF. So we got outdoor stuff. We've got movement. I mean, look at this. He's using 10-mile hexes. Let's see if I can see this. And it is... Hold on a second. Let me... It is... Look at that matrix for deciding where inside a 10-mile hex something is. I mean, hey, look, I'm not going to say that it's, no shade if you want that kind of specificity, but man. Okay, drawing your map. Yeah. I really just want to know. Okay, dungeons. Here we go. Dungeon maps, dungeon levels. Okay, here we go. So let's see. What he says. Or if he says. So we got Blackmore Dungeons. I want to see about the stuff, the actual stuff. Okay, so we got the notes. So it says here we go. This is on page 30 if you happen to have First Fantasy campaign somewhere. If you don't, no worries. So we have, having gone over all my records, the surest indication is that the point values given in the first edition chainmail form the basis for my system. So the interesting thing here is off the bat is he can't really even recall what he was doing. He's like looking over his records. This is my recollection. And so it doesn't. Now this is 1980, so probably 8 to 10 years. I don't know when he started his thing, but say, or maybe 6 to 8, whatever. Let's call it 8 years, maybe since he was at least first playing. Though I think they were playing consistently. Obviously, things evolve, but it's just kind of funny that he has to look back over his notes. And he's like, yeah, I think this is where I got it from. Exceptions occurred or due to the addition of new creatures beyond those given in chainmail and thus necessitating changes. Here's what they came up with. So group 1 is stuff like Balrogs, dragons, elementals, ents, giants, true trolls, and wraiths. Group 2 is lycanthropes, heroes, superheroes, rocks, trolls, ogres, and ghouls. And group 3 are orcs, elves, dwarves, gnomes, kobolds, goblins, elves. He mentions elves twice. Fairies, sprites, pixies, and hobbits. The second consideration was the frequency of rooms being occupied in a given dungeon level. So on the first level, it was 1 in 6. On the second level, it was 1 in 3. After the 6th level, it was 50%. So that's an interesting thing, too. Obviously, we're not talking about dungeons, per se. But definitely an interesting element here is that the rooms get more densely populated the deeper you go. The number of quote-unquote protection points to be found in any given room also increased with the depth of the dungeon. First level, all dice throws were 10-sided dice, so we're talking. So you get 5 points, second level 15 points, third level 15 points, fourth level 25 points, fifth level 35 points, sixth level 40 points, seventh level 50 points. Sort of like that. Additional variations were added by organizing home bases for the orc tribes and special treasure troves. These were simply arrived at by drawing up some lists of these events and using the dice to determine which level they were located on. Thus, the upper level would occasionally have quite powerful encounters. I would simply examine the level on which these items were located to find what I felt to be the best level on which to locate the treasure. The grouping of monsters were level 1 for first and second levels, for first and second levels, level 3 creatures on third and fourth levels, etc. There was always a 1 in 6 chance that a higher, aka stronger creature was present in any given room anyway. I always allowed that there was a chance the weaker creatures would be present. Thus, there was a good chance that any type of creature could be found at any given dungeon level. When there were not enough quote-unquote protection points within a room to buy a creature, I simply re-rolled or placed a weaker version of the creature within the room, extremely old or young, which is a neat idea, right? So you rolled up something, you had a dragon, but the dragon is way more points. You say, well, it's a baby dragon, it's a very old or whatever. It's sick, it's dying. Something else that could explain, not only just explain why it's statistically not, a full dragon. All right, so he's looking at dungeon levels. So we can do something similar, but using hexes. So maybe we'll do, I gotta move this stuff aside. Unfortunately, one, I'm in designer. I didn't think I'd be doing like a page kind of thing at the beginning. I need another, where's the, and I don't have, there we go. Do I have? Wait, what is that? Yeah, the artboard. So how do I artboard? No, that's not what I wanted to do. Can I? Yeah, insert artboard. Thank you. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that artboard. No. All right, and I can and then I can move these. And I can take these, get these out, get out. Oh, the right buttons. Okay. No. Give me the whole thing. Yes, out. All right. Ooh, I got sneeze. Excuse me. Okay. Now, hold on a minute. Let me get some going here. Press. Yeah. Where is what I'm looking for? All right. Yay! Okay, so here we can use. Yeah, da, 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 yeah, Yay! Look at that. Okay, we've got our traps. Traps values. Remember that from my. Hey, Sword and Stones. Cheers. Have a great day. Thanks for hanging out. Oh, hey Arnold. Thanks for the thanks for the bless you. Okay, so we've got our traps values. Traps, something I use in a couple of my supplements. It's sort of my in-house way of measuring the wilderness. It's a little bit more um, granular. Gives us a little bit granular controls for things. You can find it in Do Anything D6 Wilderness or in the version for Shadow Dark called Of Wood and Wold. Find it. They're both there. I'm going to be updating these soon, and most likely with some of this. We have some values which we can have different. So we can have our different our area types, our terrains, and those terrains have some different stats. If we just want an overall stat, we could just use their, I call it hazard dice, basically hit dice for terrains, and they kind of scale up like that. But we can also have them. We can look at them more, given on a more granular letter if we want. So turbidity is for how easy is it to do things like navigate. Turbidity, I went for the acronym TRAPS. So yeah, so I whatever. So turbidity ends up being essentially is how much does the terrain resist observation? Basically, if it's and it we're abstracting things out, so it doesn't matter ultimately if we're talking about in a very thick forest, you can't see anything because all the trees, or if it's mist shrouded, or if it's all canyons and hills, you don't get good line of sight because there's always some kind of hill blocking you, kind of thing, or it's hidden in a valley. It doesn't really for the purposes of this. All that matters is the severity of the effect, and these are just starting values. So you can have something that's grasslands, but yeah, it's got some weird fog effect, so it's higher turbidity. These are just kind of these are the starting values, basically based on a very generic terrain, using more or less looking at how the terrains were kind of set up in something like BX. But these are meant to be like, this is just a starting off point. Create ones for your own places. But what we can do is, for a system like this, where we're looking at things like, we're doing these point buys, we can look at something like what First Fantasy did with the levels of the dungeon and apply those instead to levels of peril. Because peril is the danger level. So peril is one that was one of the few ones I had in there that doesn't really have a direct effect. It's not how often you run into something. It's basically how bad the things you run into are. So the how often you run into something is activity. How much stuff is going on. The more active a location is, or the more chance you might have to run into something. The more things that are in there. It's a more active place where there's desolate. So you can have something like an area that's very active, but the peril's low. Like, oh, it's full of pixies or something, or it's full of gnomes. Don't necessarily scare you that much individually, though obviously groups of things can still be scary, but just in terms of individual levels of danger of each occupant, not very much, but you're going to run into them a lot. Or maybe you have the domain of a great red dragon, which is very perilous, but you're not going to run into that dragon very much because maybe it's asleep or it's in its lair. So your chance of running into something may be very low, and the landscape's blasted. It looks horrible. It's blasted. There's nothing there, so nothing is going to go there if they value their own life. So you walk through there, it's mostly empty. But if you run into something, it's most likely going to be that red dragon. So it's really dangerous. And you can, of course, have any values in between. So what we could look at in terms of points, and not like I said, but I think Arneson, like Gygax, is doing it by feel with these point levels. So you get first level is 5 points, second level 15 points, third level 15 points, fourth level. So I'm probably gonna do something more So you could probably go 5 points per level, per peril. Though it doesn't really, though again, it doesn't scale up super neatly because you get to, like in Artisan's thing, 6th level should be 30 points, instead it's 40. 5th level should be 25 points, instead it's 35 points. But I think that's a good starting. So we can do that the year. I like that protection points. Maybe I'll call it lair points. I don't know, because that's kind of what I'm thinking here is lairs as opposed to lairs as opposed to truly wandering monsters that may be moving through an area but don't actually live there. So we'll make another text box. So we're gonna be 4 lair stocking, 5 points per peril. That makes sense. I think it do. Now the numbers are going to be very different also because we're going to have to do some like times 10s or something. Maybe we have to do, Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Because we have to do some multiplication. I think, because we're in the outdoors. If something like a red dragon is 100 points, we got to figure out how could you reasonably get to 100 points, right? Because we want to have that or greater. How would we get there if it's 5 points per peril? But that's per hex, right? So per hex. But we'll start there. 5 points per peril. And then I think I want to do with if we did a rule, something similar to trying to think. Okay, if we roll 2d6, something is how many sites? How many layers do we have in an area? These are all questions we need to know. How many layers? So if we roll something like, let's see, so we're dealing with 36. So if we say that layers would be a third, right? If we did that, so that if we roll 2d6 and we said, okay, layers can be a third, that would mean we'd only get a third though on the highest. Do we want to multiply it by the activity level? Ooh. So if you get something like, let me just see. So if you're in the plains, if this is all plains, I got a 2. 2 times 1 is 2. But if I were in the desert, I'd get 6. I could get 18 if I rolled a 6. We'll have to do some testing. We'll have to do some worldographer testing at some point. All right, let's see. So roll, so 1d6 times activity. How many layers in the region? And then you can roll, right? So we can roll number of layers. And then the placement for each layer, roll D66 and place the layer at the matching location, i.e. a roll of 36 places a layer within hex 3.6. Actually, no, that doesn't work. I can't have I can't do a region. I can't do region activity because, well, yes, you can. I'm gonna have to. You know how one thing begets more things begets more things. We're gonna go from there, even though because not all terrain in a region is gonna be the same. I'm gonna leave it at region level. I think I got kind of some answers for that. All right, placement for each layer. Roll 1d6. For each layer, roll d66, place the layer at the matching location, i.e. a roll of 36, places the layer at hex 3.6. Boom. So very simple. Now for the hex stocking, per hex stocking, hex has a number of, we can call them creature points. I don't know. Equal, actually don't call it hazard points. Yeah. Equal to 5 points per peril. Hazard. 5 points per peril. All right. How many layers in the region? Yeah. Yep. Number of layers, how many layers in the region, placement, yes. I think that makes sense. All right. Number of layers, 1d6 times activity, placement for each layer. Roll d66, place the layer at a matching location, i.e. roll 36, places the layer within hex 3.6. Layer stocking, a hex has a number of hazard points equal to 5 points per peril. Yeah. And then we have this complex thing here of I don't know if we need to do humanoids versus creatures, do we? The humanoids, because they just tend to have more numbers. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we. Let me see. Does I don't think Arneson's thing has any. He's just using chainmail. I don't think he mentions anything more about. Got all these maps. Oh, they get pretty crazy. Yeah, magic swords. No. And I don't think. Let's see. We got adventures in fantasy here. Book of Magic, Book of Adventure. I don't think he's got anything in here about it. Layout of the underground. Sample underground of a dragon's lair. No, I gotta look at. I'll have to look at this better. It does remind me to go through and look at some of that stuff, but okay. Okay, don't have that going on. So, if you have, oh yeah, let me see. Do we have like a 4? What's a good mid-level critter? So let me just go through and read some of these creatures. I don't think they give a nice handy table for them, unfortunately. Or do they at the end? Is that one of the tables we get? No, those don't have the points. It just has the matrix. Does this have points? No, they don't put the points in there. They got the reference table, but it doesn't show the points you can buy them with. So then what good is the table? I mean, it is some good. All right. Hobbits, no, no point value. What does that mean, no point value? I don't know. Sprites, point value 4 because they have a star, right? Sprites and pixies. Yeah, because they got that special. I think pixies or sprites, I think they have. Am I not thinking? Sprite or a pixie? I'm closest to pixie, so let me see if pixie's got a pixie. Pixie. Or pixie, 1 star. Yeah. Yeah, so pixies have a point value of 4 because of the star. All right, so we're gonna say at now wait a minute. Yeah, orcs had about right. Okay, yeah. So, all right, let's get some. We're getting closer to some somewhat workable rules. Right. Oh, actually, I didn't need a new. Hold on, I didn't need that. Was wrong. I didn't need that. I can just use this. Equal to 5 points per peril. Creatures can be stocked by paying their hazard costs. Okay. I'll probably have to put a table in here, but just for the sake of what we're doing, can I put in a list? Do we have a listicle thing? We don't have a listicle thing. Damn it. Where's my list? List 1. Things sliding off my bed. All right. Stay. So, creatures of less, I don't know, 4 hit dice are creatures of less than 4 hit dice cost. What did we say it was? 2. Right, because orcs are 2. 2. All right, so it's just 1 hit dice cost. 1 point per die. I'm going to need to be more. To open this up more. There we go. Creatures of less. For the moment, I'll just say 4 hit die. Cost 1 point. Not her. HD per. Right? Was that? No, it's 2 points, right? Because an orc costs 2. Yeah. 2 points per die. What is it? You didn't. Did I not? I didn't give you a hanging indent, did I? No, I didn't. 1. No. I'll make it a little bit bigger. That's maybe too small. And then we need a. Where's our paragraphs? There we go. Okay. Creatures of more than 4 hit die, or 4, I don't know, 4/2 something. Well, definitely a troll at 6 costs 10 points. So we'll say 4 to 6. 4 to 6 hit die costs 5 points per HD. Creatures of 6 or more D cost 10 points per HD. Creatures with asterisk cost an additional. Oh, actually, well, it seems to. It's interesting because definitely the Pixies do. Because again, they're going. That's the problem. Not the problem. That's the difficulty with this. Is in something like chainmail, they may have started with a mathematical formula, which I'm kind of trying to go lean backwards, but they obviously adjust them. Pixies, because they can be invisible all the time, it's kind of strong. So they essentially double it up. But when you get to trolls, it seems like they don't. It's just a very easy. So maybe creatures with HD plus cost an additional 5 points per plus, i.e., a 6 plus 3 HD troll costs 75 points. Six times 10 plus 3 times 5. I think that looks pretty good. I mean, it's fairly clear as mud. Creature 6 more hit dice, cost 10 per. Creatures with HD plus. All right, cost 75. And then we could say, I guess, creatures with a star and less than. I need to find exemplars in here, or I just have to make my own thing. Maybe if you have less than 6 hit die. Wizards. A wizard is never late. He comes in. What's the point buy of a wizard? Wizards are 100, sorcerers 90, warlocks 80, magicians 70, seers 50. Might need to look at that too, but Balrogs are 75. Ents are only 15. You feel like they would be better than that. Especially given their, I guess it's also that they're, they got to look, so Ents in chainmail. Not only are Ents fierce fighters, but they're able to call trees to aid them in combat. If an Ent is within 6 inches of a tree, he can cause it to move 3 inches per turn, 1/2 Ent movement, and fight as if it were an Ent. Ents can move 2 trees each. Ents melee as 6 armored foot in normal combat, and they are impervious to normal missile fire and melee hits. Ents and their accompanying trees are most subject to flame. This is reflected in the Fantastic Combat table. Any enemy figure of non-fantastic type that is in melee range of the Ent or tree may attempt to set it afire, and certain fantastic types may also do so. Goblins, orcs, and men need a 2 dice roll of 10 or better. Hero types 9 or better. Superheroes 7 or better. Balrogs 5 or better. So seriously, they're pretty darn strong. And in terms of, but they are fire, and so there are lots of creatures who, with various degrees of success, can try to burn them alive. And since orcs and goblins aren't fantastic creatures, their strength is going to be somewhat diminished by the fact. But they're only 15 points, which this system, But the fact that you can keep as long as you keep them alive, they can keep summoning other ents. I mean, you get a forest, like you can get a whole moving forest. I feel like that's pretty strong. 6 HD. Double the point cost. Creature with an asterisk and less than 6 HD, double the point cost. I.e. a 1-star HD pixie costs 4 points. Boom. Okay. Clear as mud. Actually, I don't think it's that bad. How many layers in the region? 1d6 times activity. Placement for each layer. Roll d66. Place the layer at the matching location. So you roll. You'd get some number. And then we'd roll. And then now for the stocking. 5 points per peril. So you're going to multiply it by peril. But still, our peril's only getting us to... If our starting peril, the highest is around 3. Byronic Gamer asks, is this Affinity Publisher? It's actually Infinity Designer, but it's part of the Affinity suite. I didn't realize when I started this, I didn't think I was going to be laying it out like a page, so I set it up in Designer, but I will probably have to move it over to Publisher. But right now it's in Designer. And just a little thing I never really thought about is I've had a devil of a time lining up hex shapes. It's just, I found it's just such a pain, and but what I totally forgotten about is that you can set up as you can see here, this grid with this, I forget exactly what it's called. It's called a horizontal triangular grid type. And man, that makes laying out your hex grid just chef's kiss, just so easy. Oh, I don't know why. I always would think about it and I would forget about it. And then when I was doing hexes, I wouldn't think about it. And then I finally was like, what was that grid type? And man, it makes it a dream to lay out some hexes. So if you ever sit there and struggled with laying out a hex map or a grid of hexes in one of these programs and wondering, gosh, shouldn't it be easier than it is? Because the shapes are all bounded by squares. So it's trying to line up your squares, which don't always... But man, you throw this grid on there and just let it snap to the grid, and you just use a grid type that's basically got the size. I mean, it's out of whack now because I've moved it up and around, but before I was just using the size. You get one that matches your size, and you can just snap to the grid. Oh my gosh, so nice, so nice. Okay, so we got our number of layers in the region. Layer stocking. Do we need to do a times 10? Do we need to bring in the scarcity somehow? But that feels like that would actually not work the way I would want it to. Oh, Byron Gamer says that sounds good. Laying out hexes can be really annoying for sure. Yes, and this has made it super easy. So just whatever, and I know other drawing and illustration apps have it, but yeah, you want to look at a hex map you want to look at a grid that gives you these triangular kind of layout, and then you can see, basically just find that you just pick your size, and then you can just snap it. You just make it snap, and then just everything just snaps too. And it's just, a breath of fresh air. Hopefully I won't forget it if I'm late. And I end up reinventing the wheel, creating new hex things all the time. And I'm sure it's some of the stuff I'm going to have to go back and redo it with this now to make sure that all my hexes are lining up. Because it drives me nuts sometimes when I can zoom in and see where they're just a little bit off. And then if you've done this where you've done some of these and then you copy paste to make bigger grids, and you notice that in that, like, the first thing you copy pasted, which is now propagated everywhere, they're just slightly off one way. It's like, it's just, you just want to scream. So this is how I'll be doing it from now on. All right. I'm gonna need bigger numbers. 1d6 times activity is good. Bum bum. And then placing it, I think that's good. I need a way to get bigger numbers because we got to be able to get dragons and things that play things that are. I don't know what would. I guess in chainmail, I think the most expensive things are 100 points. But obviously, I think once you get into D&D and custom monsters, everything, you end up with more than 100 points. So I got to figure out a way to get more points. Byrona Gamer says, I know what it's like sitting at the desk thinking now, I made a note about this somewhere, right? And spend half an hour figuring things out anew. Yes, for sure. Or you just end up forgetting about it, going back to the old ways, and then you're wondering. So yeah, I gotta make sure that to put a post-it note somewhere, something for that. Okay, how do I get more points? I can roll dice. Well, that's the cost. So sorry, it's not this. The creature cost I think is fine, but it's this. So at 5 points per peril, I'm still not getting very much because I'm only getting, if just for default, I'm only getting 3. But I guess I could do 50 points per peril because this is a whole hex. I'm talking one location within a hex. If I do 50 points per peril, then I'm going to get up to 150 by default. Or, okay, do I do peril times 10 or 50 per peril? So what's the minimum amount? So if we had 50 points minimum, 1 peril, 50 points, that would give us up to 50 creatures. Which is probably... Or, let me see. Do we roll some dice? All right, so let's see. If we've got 3 peril, then we could roll 3 dice. If we rolled 3 dice, that would give us between 3 and 18. Oh, this is pretty good. I rolled 13. And then 13 times. But that means that if you're in clear, you'd only get 30. Up to 30 at max. I don't know. I don't want to make it super complicated. I don't want to add a bunch of variables in there. But I want to get so at least you can have at least a dragon. And I like the idea of having... I like the idea of having potentially a dragon plus. So if you want to do, kobold or some other creature or whatever, just one really powerful creature with some subservient creatures, you have that point value to have that. So you could have if you had 150 points, you could have a 100-point dragon, which is a 10-point dragon. You could even have multiple if you had multiple younger dragons. If you had a little broodling, or if you wanted to have a dragon and like some lizard men or whatever, insert your dragonkin, whatever, you could you'd have some freedom to do that. So it'd even be nice to get even larger, but I want to have that option. But the thing is with yeah, how can I do this? Because there's that the concept of like having these big organized groups. So one of the things I like, and I don't even know if we really get to it so much in BX. Let me see if they do. I wonder if it's talking about in AD&D anyway. You get that thing of like, you run into orcs and they've got wagons and all kinds of stuff. I don't know if that enters into either. Let me just see. Not sure that it does. Nixies, nomads, mermen. Going the wrong way again. LMN. Because the orcs don't show up here. So if we get something like nomads, you get something. Doesn't say. Where does it say how much there? Oh, there's pert people. Sorry, I guess I gotta go. Okay, so men. So if we look at the men listing in expert, it's definitely now going into. It's going into wilderness, not dungeon. We're getting variable numbers. No, not variable numbers. Where's the number appearing? 10 to 40. 20 to 70, 10 to 40. Well, I guess I got to go back. What do they say about orcs? And 10 to 60. So yeah, so their values are about 60. 60 is 60, 80. Okay, so if I needed to have 60, if I wanted to have a kind of a big group of, say, your kind of, your generic one hit die folks, and potentially having higher hit die would be, you need at least 2 times 60, which so that would be 120, plus then if you had some leader types, probably need to get to around 200 hit dice. 200 hazard points. 200 hazard points. So that would be Brian Grant says, is your attempt of the system to create some kind of balance or norm for layers? It's not so much the balance thing. I guess you could look at it as balance. It's just an idea for being able to quickly sketch out layers in a region and a different way of stocking them. You could just do it by random tables, but sometimes, like what I like about the tables, right, is that it gives you roll dice, and then the tables basically set up your boundaries. Because if it's not on the table, you can't get it. The number of dice you just determine for the size, you get what's in those things. So these nice kind of constraints. But sometimes, maybe you have an idea what should be there, but you don't have the particulars. Or you don't want to determine the particulars yourself, but you want to do it a little bit differently. So it's another way of giving you constraints, but a different kind of constraints to help with something. So instead of looking at it and saying, oh, okay, I'm just going to put in what I want, or I'm going to use this table, saying, you know what, I'm going to stock it using these point buy, and then in a sense, I guess it's more or less that sort of fairness thing, right? If we want to keep it into, hey, I'm trying to be objective, I'm not trying to just do it one way or another, I can do the point buy kind of thing, which will give me reasonable numbers that I can then divvy up that are sort of balanced against each other, but not insane. So I guess since I'm doing this kind of on a point buy thing, I suppose I don't want to use dice because that kind of undermines using the point buy to begin with. Much like using point buy with attributes, right? You can use these and you'll get some kind of decent numbers, or you can use point buy and you can get some decent numbers. Yeah, you won't get, if you're rolling, you're more likely to get things on the extremes, one way or the other. But with point buy, you're kind of going to get something in the middle. But I want to get to something where we can have that ability to get a bunch of stuff. Potentially a bunch of stuff. There's just a lot of variableness, right? We're in the wilderness, so we're expecting potentially large numbers. we have these particular stats. I could do something to do more sort of use this to manipulate things because there is some things we could do. Scarcity is basically how the resources are. And unfortunately, and just for our purposes, it gets a little bit tricky because the higher the number, the worse you are. So you could do something where you go, okay, if you've got, it's very active, which the desert is because that's kind of by default in BX. But resources are scarce, that's going to drop your number down. Whereas on the grasslands, your scarcity isn't. Your scarcity is it's fairly good, so that's going to potentially push up the number, or at least maybe that's the default number is like that, and then you can reduce for scarcity. And also ruggedness, I think, is one that could be in, because ruggedness or turbidity, one of these two, because the less, I think, the more isolated things you have, the more likely you're going to have stuff in it. So if you have a whole bunch of valleys, you could imagine there being multiple populations of things that don't interact because they're separated. You've got these hills that are locking you into these valleys. So you might just sit in your little valley and you don't know that there's all these things in all these different valleys. Whereas if you're on a wide open plain, it's more difficult. You can see everything, so you can range further. You're more likely to notice things because you can see them, which is why, oftentimes just for people get separated by forests and hills and things like that, and it can kind of be isolated that way. Whereas if you're on a wide open plain, it's pretty hard to be isolated, because things can just see you from a distance and just walk up to you, and there's nothing kind of preventing them. Ironic Gamer says, yeah, it makes sense to not mix different systems. Otherwise, you'll end up rolling multiple dice per roll to get something approaching a bell curve. Yeah, I'm not really trying to do that. And the only thing that I'm really care about in terms of balance is that it's kind of balanced on its own, just against itself. So if you're using it, you decide to use this as your system, then as you're manipulating the numbers, you'll get things that kind of match how you're doing, kind of thing. And less on the other stuff. But I am looking at the kind of, as a base, kind of BX and Chainmail, because Chainmail's got the points for the point buy part of it, and then comparing it to sort of stats in BX to see if I'm getting the right points. So if I'm sort of using those point buys, and I want to be able to get potentially a dragon or even multiple dragons, which can happen, then I need to be able to get to a lot of points, potentially. Anyway, so now I'm wondering, how do I get there? If I go to 50 points per peril, I can get up to 150 pretty easily. That's just 350 points. Which is something. And then even that turbidity could add them together. Because again, it's like this, how isolated can you feel in this environment is kind of what that, to me, is sort of kind of another way of looking at that measure. And maybe you add them together. So you get 3 peril, 3 turbidity, and you're getting, that would give you 6. So you'd get 300 per but now maybe that scarcity will drop down that number. So that would give you 300. Could be 3 dragons in there. But now we're going to drop the scarcity. How hard is it to get resources, kind of thing? Maybe do we say 25 points? So that would be 300, but then you'd lose 3, you'd lose 75. So that'll give you 225. Maybe. So maybe I'll just put a note. If you want to account, or if it's optional to account for resource scarcity in the hex, subtract 25 points per, what happened there? Scarcity. Okay, hex has a number of hazard points equal to 50 points per combined peril and turbidity. Optional to account for resource scarcity in the hex. Subtract 25 points per scarcity. So then you would get something like 225 points in desert and mountains, which is still, you know, pretty good. That's still a lot. I mean, and then also means that you could have some big group of whatever up in the mountains, which I think people want, right? You can figure that out. And we could make a table. I don't think I can make a table in here. But if I moved over to Publisher, I could. Or if I could probably just go to Excel. Because I think one thing I could do is I could make another one of these tables that has this in here, or has just these figures, because you can just do the summing. And then if you wanted to roll for the type of creature you got, or let's do this first. Let's do this first. Let me open up Worldographer. And let's run a test. Let us run a test. File, new world kingdom map. Ooh, that's kind of nice. I kind of like that one. I do. Yeah, I like it. And we'll start at the kingdom level. Right? Okay. Oh, close. Got a volcano over there. Let's go up here, and then I'm going to come into this province level. I guess I'll just, I'll do 6. Okay. Is this the lowest level? Yeah, all right. So we got some big honking regions here. I just want to get, or something with a little bit of some variation, involved. The only thing is it's going to be hard to figure out my 6x6 grid. Maybe I should have made a, actually, let me do this again. All right, file. Yeah, I'm going to want it to be one region. Hold on a minute, and I want to be 6x6. Yeah, it's one region, man. Can I get? No. Hey, no. One region. Oh, I guess I gotta do. Yeah, mostly. Shoot. I can't just do. I'm not gonna be able to get something. Oh man. I just want to fill it with some random terrain. Land frequency. Oh, land frequency. All right, let me get. I gotta. How am I still not getting that? Oh, maybe it's just because it's one region. What is each field is a percentage chance that row's terrain will have the column's terrain adjacent to it. Yeah, it's still trying to create a world. Water, ocean. Maybe I need to pick. Hold on. Columns line up, flat projection. I see. It's only going to give me that if I do for a world. If I do one region, how can I pick? Can I do 0? Does that get me something? Nope. All right. Let's just do blank. Sure. Just generate the map. All right. Time enough at last. Well, you know what? I have some generators. Bring me back my generators. I think. Where do I have it? Joy of Hex Maps has some generators. Look at that. Oh, shoot. I closed the thing. I'm going to get to pitch all my products today. Yeah. Yeah. I need to go out. Let's see. Where is it? Where can I? Try it. Come on. Oh, there it is. All right. Create my hex map. Yes, sir. All right, let's see. So this is going to have this as one region. So let's roll some dice to see what kind of region we're going to get. Rolling one die. I got a deuce. So we're talking woodlands. So that's just for the main hex. Oh, yeah. And is it? We're going to say it's wild. I want wild. Now, if I'm in woodlands, now I can roll. So we'll just start. There we go. Now let's get some terrain going. So I'm going to be rolling on the woodlands. I just want classic. There we go. All right, there we go. I got a 1. So we get wetlands. And where's my yield swap? Marsh, more. There we go. I can do it in rows, or yeah, columns rather. 4. We get woodlands. 3. Woodlands. 4. I have a different method. I could do it faster. I was doing this one just for giggles. 2 grasslands. Where's 1? Another wetlands. I'll use a marsh for this one since it's next to the grasslands. 6. Some barrens. Barone. Where's the barrens? These broken lands. 2 grasslands. 3 is woodlands. 1 wetlands again. 1 is, and wetlands can be water too. Actually, I need to. Don't forget if I have in here. Oh yeah, that was my. Oh, I didn't do that. Let me go back. I forgot. I was just rolling it. Let me do it. Let me go back and do it. So, all right. So I forgot to roll the shape because I forgot. So I should really rolling for the shapes of these. So this wetlands 5, and it's a river. All right. So I will go start this over. I was forgetting part of my steps. So let's see. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And then I'll roll again for the next one. 2 is grasslands. I can roll the other die. I should roll 2 dice at once. 6. Grasslands is going that kind of that curve. So I'm gonna not using all the tools at my disposal, right? So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. Now let's roll 2 dice at the same time, 4 and 4. So I get woodlands, and the 4 shape is that kind of diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna stock them, Brian, or at least attempt to with this point system once I get it figured out. 2 grasslands and another one of those. Interesting. Why do I keep getting those? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice curve. I got 6 and 5, which is I think barrens, right? Yep. And I only have one spot where that shape will fit. 2, 3, 4. 5 and 1. What's 5? Wooded Hills. 1 is in one spot. Well, that seems like a easy spot to put Wooded Hills. Where's Hills? There's Hills. I'll just do that there. Yep, Tetris music does indeed intensify, Brian. 3 and 2. 3, I believe, is woods. 2 is that shape. I can turn it and stuff, so I can go back to woods. And let's see, I've got that area, this area. I'll do that. 3 and 1, which is woods, and there's 1 wood, so pop you over there. 3 and 2 is more woods. Let's just keep like that. 6 and 5. Well, I don't have room for that 5. So let me see. So I've got 6 is more barrens. And I could have it as a 3 shape, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have it as a 2 shape. I'm going to have it. Where's my. Now, 5 and 3. What's 5? 5 Wooded Hills. I don't have that 3 shape, but I'm just going to fill that in. So there you go. Not bad. So once we actually got on the ball of doing it, now this is a river. And it ended here. So we can keep these wetlands. Oh, I didn't do this. I forgot that part. Well, we'll just leave it here. So we're going to have some water that's going to be coming through. So what I'm going to do is first I will draw my water, which is a feature. Oh, right. No, sorry. It's a shape. I'm going to use a line. Make sure I've got snap to points in the grid. We're going to start off with, where is it? Not simple, sorry. Preset river. Width obviously mine is way too big for my purposes. 20, I think even 20 is pretty big, right? But we can, there we go. So we got our river, and then it ends in that swamp. Just maybe dissipates out. Or maybe we could say it, I suppose if we wanted to, we could say, oh, it goes like that. Bionic Gamer says they have a love-hate relationship with Autographer, love the program, hate the interface. Yeah, the interface, it definitely takes getting used to, and I definitely always have to relearn some bits about doing it, and I don't even think I take advantage of most of the things that it has. So let's just call it grassland. We'll make this do we have a grass wood combo? Would that be shrublands? Oh, whatever. I'll just do grass here and then wood. All right. So there we go. So that's not bad, right? I mean, the thing is, what I like about this Tetris method is you can really get maps done quick. And I think you get some pretty, you get some sensible, you end up with getting some kind of sensical, I feel like stuff that a lot of times makes sense. Because using that Tetris method, you get to do it fast, but you get to use your own brain and logic to place stuff on the board so that if you don't want weird combinations of things, you won't get them because you will correct them before they get there. So I don't end up with some strange things. And now it helps that I'm using these subtables so that you get kind of all terrain that sort of matches up with what you had before. But that works. All right, so now we're in here. So now we can get to actually what I wanted to do. So the region is woodlands. So that's what we can look at for if we go back to where was our, hold on a minute. No. Where are we? Here. We're going to use woodlands as our region. So woodlands has an activity of 2. So I'm going to roll a d6 and multiply it by 2 for the number of layers that are here. I got 5. So I have 10 layers. 10 layers. Now I'm going to roll some d66s to see where these 10 layers happen to be. So let's roll and let's place some layers. Oh, and I will go to, now I can go to features. I just want classic. I'm going to use, where's that evil devil face thing? There we go. That will be my layer marker. So the first one is 13. So that means we're going to put 1, and I know it's going the other way, but it doesn't matter really. 1, 2, 3. So it's there. Let's roll another one. 22. 2. There. And get another one. 34. 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, 4. And these might not all be, they might not be, they're not going to be, it's totally random distribution. Oh, I think that was supposed to be, something. Somehow I think I must have turned off that terrain. I'm pretty sure it was broken lands. I'm just going to throw broken lands in there. There we go. No, wrong thing, sorry. I really wish you could do a different way of sizing these. Okay. Now we got, how many? That's 4. We have 6 left. 26. 2, 1, 2. Oh, finally something below the fold. 52. 1, 2, 3, 5, 52. Oh, look at that in the swamp. How convenient. Man, 14. There's a lot going on in this top row. Jeez. Oh, I already got that one. I'm getting a lot of 1s. I don't know why. 44. There we go. At least I'm a little bit there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Did I already have 44? Jeez. 45. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Oh, I figured something else out. 34. 31, 32, 33, 34. Jeez, look at that. What kind of pattern? All right, how many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so one more. All right, 62. All right, yeah. Wait, am I even counting these right? I think I've been counting these wrong too. I think I should have been going down instead of going up. So this should really be here. I think some of these I should be moving down 1. All right, but I'm going to leave it as is. That's just what we got. Now I'm going to think here's where we can have a little fun with Magic. What we can do is Also, we can make some notes here. Notes. All right. Adjacent layers can be combined into a single layer with a what do we call it? A point budget equal to the sum of the combined layers. So what we can do is say, okay, instead of having this long line, if we don't want to, we can combine some of these into one layer. So what I'm going to do is, because we have different, and I guess we can use the notes here, because we have some different things. So we can make a note here. This is a layer points times 3. 3 layers. So I guess it's easier to do it when we have multiple in the same, I think maybe in the same, oh no, oh, sorry, in the same terrain type. Right? No? Oh, maybe I have to do select. Yeah, we'll delete that one. Delete. Delete. And then this one, we can also, this is a layer times 2. Okay, layer points times 3. All right, save. Layer points times 2. Oops. And then I can select that and get that one off the board. Then we could do this one. We can add a note saying this is also a layer points times 2. And we'll do the points thing in a minute. Just do one thing at a time. Get rid of that one. And then these are floating. The same terrain type. Adjacent layers in the same terrain type can be combined into a single layer with the point budget equal to the sum of the combined layers. So there you get some nice stuff. So let's figure out our point budgets. I move this. Let's bring Wildographer back. Now on our notes. So this is a layer, so we got our point budget. Layer point budget is equal to, this is 1 times 2. Which one are we looking at? Was that this one? Yeah. Okay. So this was in Broken Lands, which we're doing kind of barrens. So 50 points times combined peril and turbidity. So that's barrens is 2. Is 2 and 3. So that's 5. So that's 150 points. Right? 50 times 4. No, 50 times 5. 250 points times 3. So we've got 250 points. And then 3, so that's 750 points. Wow. But we're going to subtract it by the scarcity, which is 3. So that's minus 75 points, right? So that would be, let's see, 50 points. So it'd be 675. But that's a big layer. That's a big layer. I mean, it was three things combined into one, which we didn't have to. We could have kept them separate, but I think especially in those kind of scarce places, it kind of makes sense that you'd have one, maybe one big thing, or you could have multiple little things. That's really up to you. You don't have to combine them, but we're combining them. And remember, I'm doing 3 mile hexes, so this is not right. It's 280 miles. And each one of these areas is only, I think, 7, almost 8 square miles, 7 something 8, I think is the number. So it's not a huge amount. Nothing to sneeze at, but all right. So 675 points. So now what can we buy? What can we buy with our 675 points? Oh, wait, this was times 2, and I did times 3. So sorry. So it'd be 500. Would have been 500 points minus 75 would have been 425. Sorry, 425. So now, peril of 3. So here's where you can do something. So here's something interesting we could do with the peril. I haven't gotten this figured out yet, but when you do wilderness, so when you roll in the wilderness, say wandering creature table, it is it goes by essentially by types, right? So you roll, like in BX, you roll and say, okay, we rolled, we get humanoids, we roll on the humanoid table. And the thing about it that's cool is you're getting all these things that basically balance in terms of like dungeon type balance. It's kind of out the window. You can get dragons, or you can get peasants, or you can get kind of anything in between. And all really it's looking at when you're looking at different terrains is the different spread of creature types. Once you get a dragon creature type, it's pretty much got the same percent chance as just about anything else. I don't think there's anything in there that does more than one spot on the table, though I might be wrong. There might be. Let me see if I can. Let me see. Do I have? Because I just had it open. Nope, that's that one, which I was looking at yesterday. I can close that. What did I have? Basic expert. So, for example, if I come down, I gotta kind of scroll down, scrolling. I know this. I'll have to zoom in here a bit more. I didn't mean to make the whole window huge. Oh, I see. That's what that did. All right, scrolling. We get down to here we goes levels of the dungeon. But once we get here, we no longer have levels of the dungeon. It's just okay. So they do have a couple. So I guess you can double up. So like clear grassland, you get men, animal. But this dragon, basically a dragon of some kind or a draconic type of creature, is as likely as men. Now it's only 1 in 8 chance, but there's like all of these individually are the same chances as getting something a dragon. Though of course you get down to the dragon table and there's other things besides dragons. So, though you gotta be kind of, odds are you're getting a dragon though, right? You gotta get down on that table. Hey Jason, too much. We're looking at stocking hexes using a chainmail like or first fantasy adventure like point buy as opposed to random dice. Now, if you're looking at dungeons, then we get levels, which has more of a balancing factor. And they're only giving us for levels 4 to 5 because levels 1 through 3 are in the basic set. Which document? Jason says, where do I get that document at? Which document are you talking about? I've got a few documents open. So we get 425 points. Now, what if I said that we're going to use our peril as kind of that minimum hit die number? So for our point buy, we're going to use, hold on, where am I going? I know there's some documents that have done the thing with the monsters where they basically put them all in kind of hit die. So if I want something with 3 or more hit dice, oozes? Oozes don't really. Those are kind of dungeonish. Yeah, I need something where it's giving me some, or I guess it could be just a big. Well, you know what I'll do? Let's just roll. We'll use the tables. We'll roll, and we'll figure out the numbers and stuff using. We'll figure out the numbers. Oh, this is just some, at this point, kind of cold coffee for the working man. We're going to use some numbers. For first, let's roll. But I need different dice. I need a D8. That's a 20. That's a 12. I might need a 12 at some point, but not yet. That's another D20. D4. Where the heck are my D? There's a D. Is this a D8? No, it's a D10. I think that's a D8. Okay. All right. Let's. What do I need? So let's. Now, the idea here really is that you wouldn't use this table. You would actually have an idea in mind, but I don't have an idea in mind. I don't have an idea in mind. But what we could do is with the point buys, we can figure out kind of what the point buy can do is even if we're going to roll randomly like we are for monsters, when it gets to be the composition of this giant layer, we can configure some things based on what we get. So let's see what we get just out of, and we can overrule it. I got animal, so that's interesting. And then, so let's go to animal. Oh, wait a minute. I was in Barons. No, sorry. It's unusual. You got unusual. I'm in love by you. Do. All right. Now I need that 12. Okay. So we got unusual. And then I got displacer beasts. I don't know if that really makes sense. Where are displacer beasts? How many displacer beasts do you end up finding in a spot? I mean, they got to live somewhere, but aren't they native to another plane? Am I misremembering that? What does it say about displacer beasts? Word men. So, let's see. Giants, displacer beasts. Looks like a large black panther with 6 legs and a pair of tentacles growing from its shoulders. Blah, blah, blah. They're semi-intelligent. They hate and fear blank dogs. Okay, yeah, okay. It doesn't say anything. So they're basically they're 6 hit dice. All right. So we might need to have a combined. This might end up being almost a dungeon situation. So we've got, so we'll put this in here. So where's Warlographer? There you are. So we can max out. So we're going to have 6 stars. So what do we say star was? So it's 6. Actually, it's right. 10 points per hit die. So they're worth 60 points each. So 4 of those will be 200 points. That's already half our budget. So there you go. 6. So we have a family of 6. No, 4 displacer beasts. That makes 200 points, right? No, 60, it's 240. So that's actually already half our budget. This is gone. Now, who's living with these displacer beasts? That's what I want to know. Well, we're going to find out. Let's go back. We're still in the Barrens. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong die. I got a 2. Flyer. So we got to go to the flyer table. Fly away. This is another D12. All right. I actually got a 10, so a small rock. So a rock, I think that's in the basic set. I think. I'll know in a minute. Nope. Small rock, 6 hit dice. Number appearing 1 to 12. So we can make this super simple. And there's also a nest of small, maybe young rocks. They're also 6 hit dice. So how many? So that would be 10 points per hit die. So one would be 60. I can't do another 4 because that would be over my budget. 3 would be 180. So 3 rocks. That's 180. All right. And that would get us to 420. Bam. And I suppose I could use the, oh, you know what, which is kind of funny. So we could say that we have 5 points left over. So here's, man, I always love when the dice tell a story. All right, so we have a family of 4 displacer beasts, maybe in a cave, right? In a cave. One of the heights has a nest of 3 small rocks, and I think we had 5 points left over, which is enough for, let's see, 5 points would be, let's see, an orc or somebody would be 2 points per HD. Well, sorry, I'm going over there, but I need to be here. 2 points per HD. So we could say that a second level somebody is lost in there. So then we can come back here, and I'm just going to use the humanoid. We can roll to see what the humanoid table gives us. Most likely to get something we can afford, but maybe something interesting. I got a 1, so I got a dwarf. So we could say that a second level, yeah. A second level dwarf is, I don't know, hiding, prospecting, lost. So there's a little story here. So maybe they, we could say something that a party of dwarves were prospecting here, but were ambushed by the displacer beasts. One dwarf escaped and is hiding in one of the canyons. Bada bing. Love it when the dice tell a story. So there you go. You missed 2 hours. Gosh, has it been 2 hours? Oh my gosh. I thought, I'll stream for an hour. As 2 hours go by. So yeah, so I didn't mean for it to tell a story, but it did. So we got this nice little, where was that one? So here, 425 points. We got a family of 4 displacer beasts in a cave, a nest of 3 small rocks atop a height. A second level dwarf is hiding. It's interesting too, because the rocks are also probably looking to feed. And then the 4 displacer beasts. And you get a little story out of it. Now, to say that we could have gotten this with the random, we could have done this with random dice. We could have, but the interesting thing with the point buy here is that, and when you want to look at really just a lucky side effect is you end up getting multiple things because I rolled, if I'd had an idea, I mean, just the way things work, right? If I had an idea of what was here, I could just use the points. Like if I wanted to say there's a group of orcs that live in these canyons, then I could have statted that out in a different way. Well, actually, let's just do that. But just to say, like, I would have used up my points on various orcs. But because I didn't, and I rolled dice, and I couldn't get to my number, I could have thrown away. I could have said, oh yeah, there's a family of 4 displacer beasts, and just tossed out the rest of the number. But then just saying, well, wait a minute, what else is there? It's rugged. There's potential for more. So yeah, I kind of cheated in the sense that I could have spread this out over the 3, and I could have had these in different hexes. Now I have it in 1. I suppose one way to look at it is I could have kept my original configuration and had 3 hexes with each of these kind of things in there, but this does tell a story, right? So is this crowded for this 1 hex? Maybe, but it's kind of fun. And maybe but the other thing I could do now is how this works is the displacer beasts and the rocks, maybe the displacer beasts kind of keep to this area, whereas the rocks will maybe even fly out all the way out here. So now when I get around to building my wandering creature table, I have some of these things where I can say, hey, if you're in the Barrens, you're likely to run into displacer beasts. This is their lair, but they're wandering all through this area, right? Maybe the dwarf is wounded, so they're holed up in this cave, holed up somewhere in here, so they're not moving, and the rocks are also kind of flying around. So again, it tells a nice story. You can get there via many different ways, and of course, I was bending the rules that I gave because the intention was this would be 1 layer. I ended up basically with 2 layers, but that's okay because really the end result is just getting stuff. But the point buy means that essentially it's kind of balanced again against other things like it, but that I stuck to my points, basically. All right, now let's do one where we're going to say that, hey, there's a singular community. So let's say here we have a layer times 3, but it's in the plains. So first let's figure out our budget. So our layer budget is, so first we're in the plains, grassland, so it's only 1. And let's see, 50 points, peril and turbidity. Yeah, it's 1 and 1, so it's 2. So that's 100 points. And we'll keep using the scarcity. So then I'll subtract 25 points per scarcity, which is again is only 1, so we're at 75. But then we're going to multiply that number by 3. So we're going to get what is it? So 75, 150. Plus another 75. So that would be 225 points. And we're going to say that there is an orc encampment. But now we can price these out with our orcs. So we got 225 points. Each orc is worth 2 points each. So what you can just say is we'll say there's 100 orcs. Do this. Let's do it like this. Can I make a listicle? I think I can. Yeah. So we got just orc warriors, 200 points. Or actually, if we want to really do, let me see. So we can say that there's, let's call it 100. Oh, I'd have to have 100 anyway, right? Because I hadn't made the number. So let's do 75 orc warriors. That gets us 150 points. And we can also have some non-combatants, camp followers, etc. And we can call that, and those will be just like maybe one, there'll be less hit dice. There may only be 1 hit die or less. So I'll call them 1 hit point because they'll be, we'll say that they're non-combatants. We would stat them out as kind of normals or even less. So they're not as formidable as the kind of generic orc warrior type. So we'll just say 1. So maybe we'll say that we can say there's 50 orc non-combatants. 50 points. Now that gives us 25 points left, which means we could have, let's see, creatures of 4, 5 points, more than 4. I think we mean more than 4 hit dice. Of 4 or more, rather, I should say, right? 4 or more. Which means we can have an orc leader of 4, or I guess orc hero. Let's just say orc hero. That would be. No, we can't have an orc hero, right? That's too much. That would be 20. No, it's not. That'd be 20 points. 20 points. We might need to. Like, I'm thinking I could adjust those numbers because I'm thinking you could get into. And this is what you get in kind of ADD more than BX. You know, how many, if you have X amount of orcs, each one of them has a captain who's, you know, so on and so forth. So maybe we'll just say 1 orc. We could probably reduce these numbers of it. We could do, you know, all these. So maybe if we do to 50, say 50, so that would be 100 points, right? 150. So now we have an orc hero that's worth 20 points. Where are we at now? We're at 150, 170. So we can have some lieutenants. So maybe you want to have 5 orc LTs, or I'll spell it out. Lieutenants. They would be, let's say they'd be of maybe 2nd level, 3rd level. 2nd level, they would be 4 a piece. So that would be another 20. 4 2 HD orc lieutenants. That's another 20 points. Okay, so 50 orc warriors, 100, some non-combatants, that's 150. So now I think we're at 190. If I'm reading that correctly. So we could have, and magic, the one thing I didn't do here is magic, because magicians or wizards and things, they're more expensive than your average hero. So you could have, so I'm at 190, which means I would have, that would give me, I don't think that's enough points. 35 points. I don't think 35 points would net me. I'll have to make an addendum for magic users. I want to say, what does it say here? Oh no, I could do a warlock. Nope, I couldn't do a warlock. But let me see. I need, if I'm going to use the number, a seer is 50 points. Can I get to 50 points? I'm at 190. I want to have some lieutenants because I feel like for each of those 10, they've got kind of their captain. The hero, I think I want to have. I could lower the number of, what am I at now? I'm at 35, right? I'm at 190. Yeah, 35. So I need 15 points. We'll lower this and say 30. Right, so now we're at 100, 150, 170. Yeah. And then I could do another 50 pointer, which would put me at 220, and then I'd have 5 more points. So sure. So I could do, so 1 orc seer, 50 points, and then I could have another, I could have, all right, 5. Or actually, you know what? I'll do something more fun. We're going to have, they are holding on to, 5 hostages. 5 points. So there we go. So using the point buy, we created this orc encampment with 50 warriors, 30 non-combatants, a hero, 5 lieutenants, an orc seer, magic user type, and then they've got 5 hostages. And, you know, I'm pointing at them out, and they're points when probably you could argue that they shouldn't be because they don't count as hostile forces, but I don't care because we're not building, this is not more in the army, it's just more to stock it. So you can apply that. Like, to me, to my point is I don't care. If you want to just keep it to things that are active, kind of active, as opposed to kind of almost, you could look at the hostages kind of like treasure. It would be another way to play it because they are sort of loot. There's something you could take and monetize. That would be another way you could absolutely do it. and I'd be fine with that too. And in fact, I'm thinking about it, and maybe overall, I actually like the idea of having them as kind of as another way, another type of treasure, which is really intriguing. You can return them, get some stuff. So I might actually think about when I get around to like, okay, now for layer stuff, what could they have? But for the moment, we'll just keep it here. But you get again, it just kind of it's another way of building a nice story. But this does give you some more specificity, right? Of with the points, how you can then differentiate creatures. And if I was doing animals, I could have some of them be more stronger, some be weaker, and that way you can play around to get the points you want. Which I could have done with the I could have done that up here. Had some of this displacer beast and like, oh, this is instead of having like this, I could have had one displacer beast being like a boss, kind of bigger, the mama or the daddy displacer beast, and being stronger and used up points that way. That would have been absolutely another way to do it. I just didn't think of it at that time. But that's another way. Or I used that dwarf as one, but I could have had but then there are multiple ways to skin that cat, which is the fun of it. But using the points, it's interesting because it just gives you another way to think through your stocking, maybe gives you a different perspective on stocking that you might have had. It's just another method. And obviously I'm using it in addition to the dice because I don't have necessarily a strong idea of what should be there. So I'm letting the kind of dice help me there. So you can, if you have an idea, like with the orcs, I said, yeah, I'm going to put orcs here. So I took that and ran with it. And that's how I got the numbers that I got. And this one here in the Barrens, I didn't have any idea, so I used the dice to kind of kickstart my idea, and then we came up with. Either way, I think that these two locations are pretty cool. I think if I saw them on my kind of in my hex map as key kind of locations, I think they're interesting. I think that so that kind of does what I want to do. I guess I'll do one more for these woods. So let's do one more, and then I'm going to go take a break, get some grub, something to eat. So I don't have anything for the woods. So I'm going to let the dice help me once again. So let's go to the dice. I'm in woods, so I'm going to roll some woodland stuff. I got the right die, D8. I got a 1, so I get men. All right. And for men, I don't get anything because I can just figure it out. All right. So I think men is men. I don't think I get, or do I? Nope, there's a subtable for men. So let's see. So I got men. I'm in the woods. I'm going to roll D12. 2, so I got bandits. All right, so we have a bandit. So let's just see. It's a bandit lair, bandit camp. My budget is actually pretty high, so this is going to be a pretty serious bandit camp, I think. We're combining two, we're in the woods. So going back to our document here, 50-point woods is peril plus turbidity, which I think is just going to be 2 and 2 for the woods, right? 2 and 2. So that's 4. So that's 200 points. But we're going to subtract 50 points for scarcity. That's 150 points. But we're multiplying it by 2, so we're going to get 300 points. So we got the bandit leader. We'll say there 4 hit die. That would be 20 points. I guess I should say bandit. We'll call it the war leader. I don't know. We just went through wizarding. So I can easily gobble up some points by just saying there's a wizard, evil wizard. Which is a clean 100 points. Now we're at 120. We still got a bunch of points left. We could have Man, this is a big. It could be a big bandit camp. Okay, so 2 points per hit die. So we could have 100. There could be 100 guys here. I'm sure there are some. Maybe by bandits, we could say this is a mercenary company. Maybe we'll call that a mercenary company instead. I don't know if mercenary comes up in. Is that a choice? Brigand, bandit, adventurer, merchant, berserker, brigand, bandit. Nope. Okay, so I'm fine with mercenaries just to make it. Merc war leader, points. I mean, he could even be higher than that. Maybe we'd say he's even higher. Maybe he's a superhero. 8 hit dice, which would put him at 10 points. Put him at 80 points. We could have, let's see. So if we're going to have, we need some more lieutenants. So let's see. How many men are we going to have? 50 warriors would be 100 points. That would put us at 280. That's not, is that enough? And then 5 to hit die captains. Would that be at 2? That would be 20 points. I think that works. Bam, bam, bam. We get a war leader, superhero. This is not a merc. This is not. This is a pretty formidable company. We have a war leader who's a superhero, worth 80 points. Evil wizard, worth 100 points. So you got a war leader, a wizard, 50 warriors, and 2 hit die captains for every 10 warriors. And I could even split them up with archers, and if you wanted to get more in the nitty gritty of what the warriors are, and you could even have, I suppose, if you wanted to work out with points what things are, but I don't really care so much about it. At that point, I will just go in and stat them kind of as they make sense. Like so much cavalry. I mean, granted, cavalry were worth more. You could probably do some finagling of that's another way to kind of differentiate things with points. I don't know if I want to get that granular into it at this level, but you could. You could say, okay, this many cavalry, this many archers, this many foot soldiers, since this is kind of a big sort of mercenary camp. That's pretty good. Now, of course, there are questions that we want to answer at some point, maybe in our world building, or if not, if we don't care, like where are they getting all this grub to feed so many people? And of course, if we did give them horses and things like that, which we could actually just stat up separately, right? Horses have a point cost, so whatever, you could do that, totally do that too. Figure out what they're doing. Who are they even preying on? Are they preying on the orcs? We haven't done settlements or anything yet. Some of these, like this, I would probably convert this lair, would really be a town, a village or something, settlement, because and even since it took up these 3 areas, you could look at saying, okay, this is kind of a culture that's sort of all this, that, and here, right? This could be, village, stronghold, village kind of thing. Would totally work and take that out. And there's orcs. We haven't figured it out. So we don't know. But I think that's a pretty good, I feel like this did a pretty good job. Obviously, there's a lot of polishing and a lot of thinking about numbers and yada, yada, yada. We could look at things like that, but and I could also think one thing, if I got to putting this in sort of some kind of final form, is I could put some shortcuts for, hey, if you want some riders, this is how much they would cost, which would basically probably just be adding a horse. 1 hit die, one warrior plus a horse would be equivalent to like a 2 hit die critter or something like that. So then you just stat it accordingly. But I could make some kind of army lists or things if we wanted to quickly get up some groups. Dan says, should the points available to stock marshals grow as the PCs increase in level? That's a good question. I'm saying no, they should not. This is kind of the world which is basically objective. It doesn't care about the PC's level. But now, because we're using points, so Dan, the thing is your budget doesn't change, but you can always, because I'm using dice in some point, because this is just a random spot. And I don't have a story or anything in mind of what's happening here. So I'm doing it randomly. But obviously, if you have 500 points to spend and your party's high level, then maybe you don't put in a whole bunch of orcs, or maybe you do because they're at armies and they're fighting with armies, because armies are, they're their own thing, and if enough numbers are up, you have the potential to have some pretty big numbers. And so you have the potential to have things that even if you're a hero or a superhero that you have to look at. But you could also say that that 500 points is 5 red dragons that are 10 hit dice each. That can you found a super layer of 5 red dragons. So what you spend the points on, because it's kind of up to you, either to use dice, use your judgment, or use your fancy, your imagination, you could totally stat them up. But this is kind of using the world to do it. Now, I think with high level play, if you're kind of adventuring high levels and not getting into domain stuff and you're going to different realms, one of the things I've thought about is having different realms that basically are kind of force multipliers. So, for example, your prime material plane is what it is. But then if you're going to, I don't know, Limbo or some other plane, that plane can be like a fantastic plane, like Fairy or the Feylands or the Feywilds, whatever you want to call it. That might be like a fantastic realm. And so everything is kind of multiplied. So just the difficulty of everything kind of goes up, which means that you probably want to be a hero type before you end up going to Fairy to adventure there, because everything's just more dangerous. Or to, like I said, Limbo or the ethereal plane. Like you can have that or different planes, but I wouldn't have this be relative to the party. So the party's high level, then yeah, these things are going to take on different significance. But look at this party here. This is a high level encounter here. You've got a superhero, basically a high, 8th level fighter, a 8th or 9th level wizard, 50 warriors, and some captains. That is not something to be sneezed at. And I didn't have to do any. That's not adjusting for level. It's there. So if you're a low level party and you bump into that, you probably want to skedaddle or make a deal, work for them. If you're a high level party with a bunch of followers and things like that, then maybe you break out your war rules and go like that. Or you start, you and the wizard and whatever start flaming, tossing fireballs at each other. Terrence, a Saturday stream, indeed. But I'm gonna give it a rest for now. I might be back. I've got the house to myself today. The wife and daughter are out of town, so I'm kind of just bouncing around doing my own thing. I'm gonna see what's going on out in the world. I need to get some grub. I need to get some supplies. But I might be back because there's not really much going on. It's kind of cold. Sunny, but cold. So chances are I might maybe return for part 2 or maybe go back to something else. But I'm really happy about how this turned out so far. And I think that, having this amount of layers, and then I can use these layers to configure my random encounters for these areas. And I'm thinking now maybe just layers, it's just settlements / layers. I'm not sure. But anyway, I think it's a great start. So we'll start there. If you get another ping from me, I might be back on. But regardless, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.